Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, an epidemiologist, biostatistician, core faculty member. In this video I'll be talking a little bit about the different ways that stigma is experienced, and especially looking at weaponizing stigma. This may seem like a foreign concept because when you're thinking of stigma, you don't think about weaponizing, but if you think about it in the neoliberal context, then the article characterizes this as stigma before moving to characterize post-1940s, post-1970s financial capitalism, focusing on relations of class and command. It then examines the distinctions between enacted and felt stigma, involving norms of shame, and enacted and felt deviance involving norms of blame. And the novel neoliberal dialectic between these two set of norms doesn't quite reach everyone. So this critical exposition provides a platform for sociological rethink. A case is made that the significance of stigma and deviance as defined here can only be grasped sociologically in terms of the prime macro mechanism of financial capitalism, the class command dynamic, and the interaction of relations of stigma and deviance with other social relations. Most notably, those of class-based exploitation derived from the possession of capital and oppression deriving from the oppression and possession of power. And this oppression can be either command or state-based. Stigma in any way, shape, or form is bad, but when you're looking at understanding stigma, it has to be done in a correct way. So initially, the idea was the distinctions between enacted and felt stigma, and then the new neoliberal dialectic between these two sets. Expanding on author's work with David Kelleher, it is suggested that there exists a plethora of resistance activities ranging from specific and or local campaigns to transnational class, feminist, and ethnic resurrections. What this adds up to is a strategy of permanent reform. It is argued that the effective execution of this strategy presupposes a structural shift away from neoliberal ideology, the narrative of austerity and post-1970s financial capitalism. The potential effectiveness of the strategy of permanent reform is appraised again with reference to disability policy and practice. I know this is a lot of words to digest in the abstract, but if you look closely, the understanding of class-based exploitation is especially important, and when you finally understand that, then you won't be involved in the norms of shame and enacted and felt deviance. So then you're not looking at the context of stigma from the norms perspective, but understanding stigma in the context of how capitalism plays a role in class command dynamic. The class-based exploitation is way more important than creating deviance norms and how a deviation from the norm causes stigma. Some of these financial, I'm going to go through this quickly, but beyond Goffman, and class, command, stigma, and deviance. So there's a category A, which is capitalist executive, largely transnational and detached owners of capital. Social class 1, capital monopolists, capital auxiliaries, and capital sleepers. And then category B, the new middle classes, insider, higher managers, outsider, higher managers, middle managers, So these are the categories, and then there's a box for displaced workers, never worked long-term employment. So enacted stigma, felt stigma, project stigma, or projected stigma, active resistance to enacted and felt stigma. And then deviance, there's multiple descriptions of deviance. So then they provide stigma plus deviance, which is an interesting context when you're thinking about social norms and deviance and the financial undergirding of this. So in a way, this article is asking us, it leaves with 7 theses, but it's asking us to recontextualize. So I'm going to read a couple of them. Objects of sociological interest in this article, the structures of relations of class and command and cultural norms of stigma and deviance are real in a critical realist sense. That is, they're not just social constructions, but relatively enduring mechanisms, the existence of which can be retroduced from our experience. Following on, despite sociology's transitivity as a set or network of social processes, its objects are intransitive. It can be seen as tendencies. Sociology, so it keeps moving, sociology. You don't have just one set of constructs. Sociology typically only tells part of any story and rarely wraps things up explanatorily. If sociology has an override purpose, this might be to explore and come to terms with what Auguste Comte once highlighted as social dynamics or social change and social statics, the social order. The prime structures relations of relevance to sociologists interested in morphogenesis and morphostasis in general, and injustice and inequity in particular, with maximal explanatory purchase across the figuration of the British nation state in the era of financial capitalism. So this is in England, but it still is adequate in the United States. So the power elite commands, and that in combination comprises the class command dynamic. So the prime structures of relevance to sociologists interested in morphogenesis and morphostasis, and in justice and inequity in particular. So this is all, a lot of it is at the center of the financial capitalism, which is not oftentimes recognized. And then there's a couple more here, 4 more, and actually 6 more. So I want you to take a moment to go over this as far as in terms of understanding stigma in a different aspect. Thank you for listening.